Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Here to introduce you to the great musicians and music businesses and organizations of Wisconsin.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. This week we have Michael Rossa from the group The Now, and he's going to talk about his musical origin stories, how they're pretty much a self-booked band. They get about almost like 95% booking their own selves. They have a new singer into the group about after 10 years. So with all that information and more to come, Michael, welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So like I said in the little intro there, why don't you kind of give the listeners your music origin story? How did you get started in music and kind of what led you to where you are today?
Well, the way I got started in music was playing drums filling in for a cover band called the Nashville Rejects, which was an all-country band years and years and years ago. But that's where I got started, playing drums with them, filling in once in a while on stage. And then it turned into me kind of picking up the guitar and learning how to sing, and spent my time doing some original material back in the 90s, but then also transitioned into the cover band scene at the early 90s, 93, 94, around that area, and pretty much took off from there. And I've been playing in The Now for 18 years, and the band's been around for about 19 years, so I joined about a year after the band was already in existence, and I'm still here today, 18 years later. I manage the band, book the band, and I'm also the guitar player.
That's great info. And so since you are basically kind of in charge of the group, kind of give the listeners an idea of what it's like running the band from your position.
Sure. I mean, it's a lot of, being in the cover band in this market. Cover bands are pretty much king. They've been pretty much king for many, many years.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. It's just what sells in this market. But
yep.
Being in a cover band for as long as I have, and handling the managerial duties and being the band leader, it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of time that goes into it when you're not on stage and when you're not at the show. There's a lot of time that goes into preparing the band, booking the band, making all the contacts, doing all the contracting, calling to secure shows, set up shows, organize the shows, and then of course organizing rehearsals and putting that all together. So as the band leader and manager, that's all under one hat, so to speak. So you do tend to work a lot of off hours that you put into it, that people don't see. There's a lot of stuff that people don't see. And even with the cover band, like a lot of people think, well, it's a cover band, so maybe it's just as time consuming, and just as you have to put as much effort and passion into being in the cover band as you would with an original band. People don't really see that part of it, but especially with our band, we really try to get the material very close to the original artist, because we all have a very big passion for the material, and so we want to make sure that the material comes across as good as we possibly can, in order to show reverence to the material, because we really have a lot of respect and admiration for the artists that we cover. So we do spend a lot of time in rehearsals and spend a lot of time as a cover band to try to get things as right as we can, just like an original act would. We take that much pride and passion in what we do.
Yeah. And, difference between, at least to some people I've talked to, and I kind of feel the same way. It's like a original band is really a cover band of themselves. That, if they record something, they kind of have to put together their live show and their music as close to the recording. I mean, they can, change it a little bit here and there, but same thing with you guys. Everybody knows those songs. If something completely, something's wrong with the way you're playing that song, people are going to notice that.
For sure. You will find that a lot of the people in the audience, they know the songs better than you. And if you mess up a lyric, or if you play something that just doesn't sound exactly right, you'll have people that will come up to you, especially if that's their favorite song. Mm-hmm. If that's, their favorite song, they know that song inside and out. And the last thing people want to see is, you'll see with original artists is, I think you nailed it, is that once they record the song, they then have to go out there and perform that song just like the record, or as much as they can. And a lot of artists fall in the trap of they put an enormous amount of production on the recording, and then they go out to do it live, and you realize, well, we can't really recreate the actual sound that we have on the record because we did a lot of multi-tracking and had a lot of different instruments that were involved in the recording, and now we have to go out and try to recreate that. So they end up doing a lot. What we do is we try to find a way to make the song sound as close as possible with the tools that we have live on stage. And that's exactly what an original band would be doing as well.
Exactly. And then as a cover band, do you guys do recordings, or are you guys not a part of that with your group?
With us, we've never recorded any material and made it available to the public. What we do, though, and I think this is a strength of why we've been successful for as long as we have, is we record our shows from the front of house mixing board, and all the band members, we all listen to those recordings, and then we are basically critiquing and working on constant improvement to how to make these songs better. If we're not singing in key together in one part, or bass line, guitar lines not really together on a certain part, we hear that in the recordings. And then when we get into the rehearsal room later that week, everyone kind of comes to the rehearsal room with a list of notes of things that they heard in the recording from the live recording. And, hey, I heard this part, let's go over this part. That sounded a little wonky. So let's try to tighten that up. So we don't record songs to put out to the public, but we record almost every live show, and we listen back to almost every live show and self-evaluate where we're at as even as a cover band.
Yeah.
Even as a cover band.
That's great. I think everybody should do that. They should reflect upon a past performance and say, what did we do good? What do we need to work on? And, that's how you get better. You can't rely on your memory all the time, because you have a different perspective than what the audience has. And if you don't hear that other perspective, you're not sure if what you're doing is what you really thought you were doing up on stage.
100%. Because when you're in the moment, you're usually performing, and you're not, you're in this moment that is a completely different type of environment than when you sit down and listen to the recording. Because so many times myself or other band members would say, oh, I heard something in the recording, and I didn't even know I was doing that.
Right.
And come to find out, you're playing a C there. Okay, yeah, well, let me do that run exactly the way you're doing it. I didn't really know that we weren't doing exactly the same notes in this little run until I heard it in the recording.
Right.
So
right.
It becomes a valuable tool. And I think every cover band, original band, every musician out there should constantly record themselves, video and audio, because that is the only way you are going to really get better. Because I tell you, the tape doesn't lie.
No, it does not.
And it's not to say that, any of us are perfect by any means. You're going to have mistakes in the show because we're all human and stuff. But like I always say is, if you make a mistake, and it happens once in a while, that's one thing. If you're making the same mistake every time you play the song, that's no longer a mistake. That's a willful decision to not get it right.
Right. Exactly. Now, like you said, you've been in this group for almost 20 years. So you're talking early 2000s. So digital recordings were just starting out around that time. So were you guys doing like a tape deck, or how were you starting when you first started out? How did you record your shows?
Well, digital boards have kind of been around for quite a long time. Actually been around for quite a long time. And so we started the live recording of our board mix. We started that after the digital recording was available to us. Okay. So it's basically a USB thumb drive goes in the board and takes the recording, and then we just dump it out to an MP3 and email it out to everybody.
Nice. Yeah, and that's definitely, like you said, it's a great tool to double check everything and make sure you're doing it right. Now, another thing is, what is the local scene like for you guys? What are the positives, and what are some of the struggles you've kind of seen over the last 2 decades?
Excellent question, because this is could not be a more timely question too. The scene, and I've been with this band almost 20 years, and I've been playing in cover bands for well over 30. And what I've seen recently is there's an enormous amount of saturation in the cover band scene. Not only do you have a saturation of bands, so there's so many bands out there, duos, trios, single guys, 4-piece, 5-piece, all these full bands, but there's also an oversaturation of venues. So years ago, if you were playing in the summer, which is our heaviest season, the outdoor festival season, if you played a third weekend in June, you might have had one or two festivals that had live music for live music lovers to go see.
Right.
Now, on that third weekend of June, you have those two main festivals, but you also have everybody and their brother who owns a bar and can build a patio with some plywood is going to have a duo or a trio or even a small band, a smaller, 4-piece band with a smaller setup. And so now you're in this competition of not only there's so many bands out there, but there's also so many venues out there. So if you're the band who's playing one of those festivals on that third weekend in June, whereas in the past you were pretty much guaranteed to have a pretty large crowd at your festival, now you're spreading the draw out amongst that festival and 7 different bars. So if you're playing in Waukesha at a festival, well, I can tell you right now, there's 6 or 7 bars in Waukesha that have live music. And some people don't like to be in big crowds, so they're going to choose that smaller venue environment because they don't like the big crowds.
Right.
So you find yourself having to work even harder now. Like a band like us, even though we've been around 18 years, there's no letting up on the gas pedal for us. We're not a band that's going to sit around and or even has the ability to sit around and just rest on the fact that we've been around 18 years. I mean, we still got a pound of pavement. We still have to go out there and be hungry and try to get every show that we possibly can, because there's 5 other bands that just started. They'll willfully take that spot from you at much less money.
Right. Yeah. And then, from different perspectives, some people are going to say they like that spread out where they can go and see different bands on a weekend. Maybe they'll go to 2 different or 3 different bars and see a couple different bands. So in a way, that's a positive because you're trying to grow the music scene in Wisconsin. But then, like you said, there are bands out there they'll willfully take your spot, in a heartbeat, because there's so many of them out there. It's getting, like you said, saturated.
Yeah, it's great for the consumer.
Yeah,
it could not be a better time for the live music consumer right now in this market, because there's so much good talent out there. Down to a single solo guy who's just amazing, to a 2-piece, 3-piece, full band, large production bands like we put on and our peers put on. So if you're a live music consumer, this is the time of your life right now, because it's just so much going on. And,
exactly.
And 5-6 days a week, there's venues that have live music 5 days a week.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, those are all positives for the consumer.
Yes.
Challenges for the artist, but at the same time, I think it's bringing more live music fans out to these events.
Yes.
But it is spreading the audience out amongst, the days are over when you play, like I said, you play a festival and you just know it's going to be packed. Mm-hmm. Those days are over. It'll be a good show if you're a quality act, yep. But it ain't going to be insane like it used to be.
Right. So you've been doing this for, like you said, almost, 2 decades. What, trying to think of the best way to say this is okay. Now I know what I was going to say. What is a consumer or an audience member going to experience when they come and see your show? So let me say that again. What is the audience going to expect when they go see the Now at a show?
The number one thing that I think that we have going for us, and this may seem trivial to some, but two parts of this coin. The one part of it is that everybody in the band has a deep passion and reverence for the material. We're not up there. I see a lot of bands go up there and you can just tell they can't stand the material they're playing because they look like they want to be anywhere but being on that stage playing that song. Our band's not like that. We choose material that not only fits our market genre and what we're trying to perform in front of people, but we also choose material that we really, really enjoy playing. So I think when people come to see us, I've had people come up and actually say to us, we can really tell that you really, really believe in this material. And so that comes off, and you can't fake that to an audience. Like, you either really like the material or you don't. And right. I think when you have that showing to the audience, that's an important part because they feel that way about the song. So this could be a song that hit them really hard in high school, got them through a tough time, got them through something really dark in their life. And this song just really speaks to them. And so when they see you feeling that the way they feel that, now you have this connection between the people in the audience and the people on the stage. And that's the second side of the coin that I speak about with us, is we're very approachable. We spend time talking with people and hanging out with people, and we're very approachable. So we spend a lot of time trying to make a connection with people and getting to know the people that come to see us on a regular basis, because we want to have that type of relationship where it's not just you're on the stage, we're down here, and it's two separate people. Like, we want them to feel like we really, really, really have this familial connection with them.
That's
and I
wonderful.
think that people get that from our show.
Good. It's because that's what people want to do. When they go out and see a band, they want to feel connected to however the song or the people on stage or a mixture of both. If they don't get that, then they're not going to enjoy their time being where you're performing.
Absolutely. And I've seen bands that, take their break and you don't see them on the break. You don't see them after the show. You don't see them before the show. And nobody in our band has ever felt that way. Everyone has a deep love for the people that come see us. Because at the end of the day, getting back to my earlier point, there's a million other places any of these people in the audience could be, but they're choosing to come to see you. And if you don't appreciate that, and if you don't respect that and let them know that you appreciate that, they have plenty of other places to go.
Absolutely. And for new fans or new possible fans coming to see you, what kind of music are you guys kind of putting out there for them?
Well, we've always been an 80s rock, classic rock band. We've been that way for 18 years. This year, when we picked up our new lead vocalist, Jeanette, it allowed us. We started doing country about a year or two ago. We sprinkled in a little bit of country. Still doing the base of our materials is 80s rock, and then we sprinkled in a little bit of country. Now we're sprinkling in a little bit of 90s, stuff like No Doubt and Pink and stuff like that. So we're throwing in a little bit of top 40 stuff now with Jeanette at the lead vocal position, and so it's really allowed us to expand our material more than we ever had before. Because before we were strictly 80s material. Gotcha.
And so 80s had a lot of different subgenres in rock. Where do you guys kind of fall in? Like, what kind of bands would you say you cover?
For us, it's basically Journey, a little bit of Poison, stuff in that nature. That's where we've always been. Def Leppard and things like Bon Jovi, stuff like that's where we've always been.
Okay.
For many, many years. So we're pretty much into that. But with Jeanette coming in, we're able to do some Blondie. We're able to do some other things still in the 80s genre. That is, Pat Benatar, stuff like that. Joan Jett. We do stuff like that. So we're able to kind of spread it out amongst that 80s, but it's all that 80s rock and roll material. It's all up tempo material. We don't do a lot of slow material songs. We try to keep everything, high energy.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a great time. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are from that generation that want to go and hear that stuff, especially when some of those bands aren't around anymore performing. So they, they get that second dose from you guys. And another thing is that for me as a high school band director, I see these young kids, to them, these are like the oldies to them. And it's like, they're kind of like into this stuff because today's music for them might not be what they're looking for, but the stuff that their, uncles or, grandparents or even, older, if they have older parents, that's the kind of stuff that they were listening to when they were younger. Now they get to go out there and kind of dabble in that when they start getting to that age where they can start going and seeing live music.
Absolutely. Obviously our material bodes well for the, 35 plus
right
age. But I cannot tell you when summertime comes and we're able to play places that are open to all ages, the first 3-4 rows, there is a lot of teenagers and young adults in that audience. We just did a show a couple of weeks ago, and there was this group of 4 young males, probably 18-ish.
Okay.
And they were just rocking out in the front row. They ended up coming to the next 2-3 shows.
Wonderful. That's excellent.
Yeah, so it does span the audience because all of the material we play too are very big hits. So we're not playing like the deep cut from Guns N' Roses. We're playing Sweet Child of Mine. We're not playing the deep cut from Journey. We're playing Don't Stop Believin', Stone in Love, and things like that. So
right.
These are things that they've heard before, like you said, from their parents. And Guitar Hero was a big bridge that bridged the younger generation to a lot of this material. Twisted Sister, Motley Crue, all that stuff. Guitar Hero was a big bridge for that.
Absolutely. Now, I know you guys, we talked about recording, your shows and like that. So that's, we're kind of past that. But when, trying to look at my questions here because I want a specific question here for you. When you're building these songs to play out live, like you grab some new ones or whatever, do you really like study the recordings, where that guitar part came in and that little guitar part that only comes in once? I mean, are you really trying to get every little aspect, or are you more like grabbing the main things and then trying to do, like you said earlier, just get the best performance you can with what you have?
We are a band that tries to get it as close to the record as absolutely possible. So we are going to dissect every little tiny little minute detail of the material. And we do that for 2 reasons. One, it goes back to having a respect for the person who recorded the song. I would never embellish Slash's solo in Sweet Child of Mine, because to me, that would be not showing the respect of how beautiful that solo is and how perfect in every way that solo is. So if I was to add my own little thing for me personally, and other guys can go out there and play it differently, but for me and for the band, I've always ran the band that I want to get this to show respect to the artists, and they've done all the hard work for you. They went in the studio and figured out what notes worked right, what drum beat, worked right, and what vocal and what harmonies worked right. So they've done all that hard work, and they came up with the magic on their own. So who are we? who are we to say, oh, well, no, we should be doing it this way, and we should do it this way, and I should play the drums this way, and I just want to, play drum fills everywhere. And it's like, Ringo Starr, if he played the beat a certain way, like I don't think you need to be doing double kick drum fills in there.
Right, exactly.
It's like, it's the beauty of what they recorded. So that's what we do. We go in, we pick the songs, and then we everyone learns their parts. We dissect it. Everyone comes in the rehearsal room. We run through it, and most times we run through it 2 or 3 times, and it's ready to go, because everyone really in this band, they do their homework. So we don't spend a lot of wasted time in the rehearsal room. Everyone is responsible to do their homework on their own, show up on rehearsal, and let's just run through it a few times and tighten up a few bolts.
Exactly. Do you also record your rehearsals as well?
No, we have never done that, but we've been known to run over a song 12 times.
Well, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Right. And it's, going back to a point you made earlier about the live performance, you can play it as perfect as you want in the rehearsal room. That will never translate to live.
No,
because a live performance is worth 4 or 5 rehearsals, because you're just standing there, you're focusing, you're not looking at, something grabbing your attention in the front row. So you're not distracted in rehearsal. So it's very easy to play the songs very well in rehearsal. Once you get on the live stage, though, that's sometimes where you hear things that you didn't really hear as well. Right. Especially with the recording, because you can listen in rehearsal all you want, but in the recording, you can sit down and just listen and not play. You're not playing along. And that's where things really stick out to you.
Exactly. Cool. What was a gig that made like the biggest impression on you? You could be either as a performer or as an audience member, or you could talk about both.
I'll give you 2 examples. People ask me a lot if I ever get nervous before shows, and I don't. I've been playing for so long. But the last time I was nervous was I was early on in this band. I think it was my first year playing with them, and we opened for Loverboy in Oshkosh.
Okay.
And I was backstage meeting the band members, and that wasn't very nerve-wracking for me. But as soon as I stepped out on the stage to do the opening slot and I looked out and saw it was about 4,000 people there, and that's when it really hit me pretty hard. That this is something pretty huge. And then fumbled my way through the first couple of songs until I got my sea legs underneath me.
Right. Cool.
The other one I would probably mention is, like I said, being everybody in this band is a fan of music. So when we see people in the front row getting emotional and whooping it up and getting super excited, we know what that's like, because we're the same way. We go to see live music and we talk about other bands and other songs. Oh, listen to this one part. Listen how beautiful this one little part is here. We do stuff like that too. And years ago, I was at a venue in Madison, and John Mayer was playing. It was on Valentine's Day. Forget what venue it was, but it was a Valentine's Day show. Okay. And I was going through some stuff in my life at that time, and I was sitting in the audience, and he was going through Gravity, and I've never seen him play Gravity. And I watch a lot of live videos on YouTube. I've never seen him play it like he played it this night. And I was standing there just bawling away, just bawling for. I did what he was doing on stage and the passion he was doing and the stuff I had going on in my life. That song was just speaking to me at that time, and I'll never forget that day.
Wonderful. Yeah. I think we've all had that experience where you're just in a certain mindset and a certain song just hits you a certain way, and it just makes a mark on your memory.
Right. And that's why a lot of people have their favorite songs.
Yep.
Because, I remember graduating high school and this song was popular, and still today. I was listening to an older Bon Jovi record, and when the songs came on, immediately all kinds of images and memories popped into my head just from hearing the music from those songs. And so I think you have to be respectful of that in the audience, rather than just getting up there and saying, well, we're just going to throw these songs out to you and we're just going to have fun. We're going to collect our big check and we're going to go home and everyone's going to be happy. For us, it's really about the passion of the material. It really is.
Yeah, it has to be, because what we do it for the music, or at least we hope that people mostly do it for just the music.
You do, and I mean we've had venues that we've played in the past where the money wasn't there, but it's always a great crowd. And you love those shows.
Yep.
And then we've had places where the money wasn't there and there was really not a great crowd. And it's like, yeah, it's a gig, or the money is there and it's not a great crowd. And it's like, I don't really know if I'm not really doing this for the money. Like I'm doing this to have a connection with people. I want to have a connection with an audience. And if there's no audience there, it's very hard to go home feeling like you connected on a musical level with someone. I used to do acoustic shows for a while, and I stopped doing them years ago because you're just background music. Me and the original drummer of the band, we did an acoustic show one time, and we did the whole show, and no one applauded for not one song the whole show.
Oh, jeez.
And then the bar wanted us back.
Oh,
he's like, everyone loved you. And I'm like, everyone loved us. They never applauded at all. They didn't even look at us half the time. He's like, no, everyone said you guys were great. And that was a hard thing to do, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine. Definitely. Yeah.
You need that physical, emotional feedback from the audience, because when the audience is energetic, that gets you energetic, and then you're feeding off their energy. And if you don't have that energy coming back at you, it's very difficult.
Exactly. As I wrap this up, what is for you the solution of work-life balance with this?
That is the age-old question. Yeah, anyone who has a family, that's the tough question.
Yep.
We play a lot in the summer, so summer is our busy time, but then fall is a lot less. I think for me, understanding balance is understanding that balance doesn't mean it's always 50-50. Balance means that sometimes it's going to be 70-30 towards the band, and sometimes it's going to be 30 towards the band and 70 towards the family and other activities. But anyone who is a musician who really has a passion for playing live, and anyone who loves the person who is a musician who loves playing live, they understand that there is a drive inside of you to do this that is very hard to quantify, and it's very hard to explain to another person. And I think you just have to understand that the balance wheels are going to tip back and forth throughout your time doing it. And I think you just have to accept that.
Okay. Yep. I agree. Yeah. I mean, and if that person that you're with doesn't understand that, I don't think they're going to be around very long, because it just doesn't work.
It does. And it's tough. It's very tough, and relationships are tough. And with any musician, it's just a lot of time. And think about it. You're giving up you're giving up your significant other to something that they love so deeply. And some people feel threatened by that, but it takes a strong person to be with someone like that. And there's a lot of strong people out there, but you have to find you have the right strong person, you know?
Yep, exactly. Is there anything that we haven't talked on that you wanted to mention before I let you go?
Yeah, we just got a new lead vocalist in the band in December, Jeanette King, and we decided we wanted to make a change after quite a long time with previous singer, and we made a change, and we were not looking to audition females at all. We just put it out there for auditions, and we had a handful of females that came down, and we had never had a female lead vocalist in the band. So that was kind of exciting for us. And when she came down, she just absolutely nailed it. And it really opened up a lot of areas for us to go material wise. And I mean, we already have three other I'm the lead vocalist. Drummer can sing lead vocals. Rudy, the bass player, he can sing lead vocals. So we already have enough male voices in the band. So this just took what we're already doing and just added something, a level to it, with having the female involved, and just opened up an area of material for us that we can now cover and just reach more people, which is what it's all about anyways.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like adding a completely different instrument. It kind of changes the vibe of the whole thing. And in most cases, hopefully it elevates the group that they're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever, and we've been through a few member changes over the years, whenever you have a member change, it has to be a change forward. It can never be a change backwards, obviously,
right.
But you really don't want to go sideways either. Yeah. And I had actually a fan that had come up to me, and he said, I've been seeing you for so many years, and I've seen you through all the musical changes. And he said, I got to tell you, every time you guys made a change, you have made a change in a step forward direction. And he said, and that's not can't be said for a lot of bands.
No, that's great. That's great. So where can people go and find out where you're playing? What's your website, social media? I'll put it all in the show details, but for them to hear it from you, where can they find you?
Yeah, it's thenowband.com is the main website, and Facebook, just put in @thenowband. And we have a YouTube page at The Now Band Milwaukee. And Instagram is the same thing, @The Now Band, same as Facebook.
Wonderful. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being on the Wisconsin Music Podcast. It's been a pleasure. It was a great conversation, and I'm glad we had this today.
Appreciate you having me on. Much love to you, brother.
Well, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Once again, I'm Zach Fell, your host and creator of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, where I love to amplify the great sounds coming out of the Wisconsin state. We have great talent here, great support, great listeners. Thanks to Fox Cities Indie Radio for syndicating this on Wednesdays and Sundays, along with their other great programming. So make sure you check out the Fox Cities Indie Radio. Thanks to our guest, Michael Rossa of the band The Now, for sharing his in-depth story about his musical journey and the journey that he and his fellow bandmates are on. If you'd like to be on the show, just go to wisconsinmusicpodcast.com, fill out the guest request form up at the top, ask for your email and your name, and then I'll send you an auto email asking you for more information. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.